Meeting of the May 12th meeting of the Urbana Free Library Board of Trustees will come to order. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? There's been some changes. I hope you have. We've never asked for that before.
I have one comment.
I've not approved the agenda. Yeah, approve the agenda.
Approving the consent agenda, but I have a comment about the minutes.
No, I want the agenda that we
The new
passed out.
agenda.
The new agenda.
The
Yeah.
new agenda, okay, fine.
A motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All approved, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, now, a motion for the consent agenda.
Could I make my comment first?
Please.
Because it's,
Yeah.
you will see. Under new business, there is a very strange religious reference that I think needs to be changed. The sentence under new business,
Of the minutes.
in the minutes, bottom of the page. This is a ha-ha moment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yes.
It's,
Drum roll.
read it.
Where are we at? Under new business?
New business, strange religious reference. How do you spell your first name?
Oh,
Okay.
Oh,
please.
Ha-ha
Chris.
moment over. There's an extra T on the end of his name, Chris with a T. I think we can change that, okay?
I move
Has
we
nothing
change,
to
I move we
do
change the
with-
spelling on Chris's first name.
Nothing to do with approving the minutes. So now let's proceed.
Oh, shoot. Yes. If you have a motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That did the minutes as Anna corrected and the bills of April 22 and May 6. Petitions and communications. We have some concerns would like to be expressed from the floor, and I think the first person who's asked to talk tonight is Carol Tilley.
Good evening, and thanks. I just wanted to say that it's coming up on the 2-year anniversary of some interesting events at the library. And when concerns arose about the weeding issue in 2013, it wasn't just about weeding, it was also about personnel issues and the continuing strength of Urbana Free Library with regard to the strategic plan. And one of the things that I have noticed in looking back through the past few months of financial statements and policy changes and conversation with a number of employees is that there seems to be a very real struggle with financial changes. I understand that those are unavoidable, but I would encourage the board to meet with all of the staff and take advantage of the staff's extensive expertise, not just the professional, but the paraprofessional and hourly staff. Take advantage of their expertise, their creativity for financial problem solving, for considering how to restructure services in a meaningful way that support the ongoing best interest of the Urbana community and of Urbana Free Library. The other 2 points I would make very quickly, I would encourage the board to request that the monthly departmental reports be added back into the board packets instead of the summary from the director. And the third, I would encourage you to remember that the strength of the Urbana Free Library is not just the programs and the collection, it's the people who work here. And as I see some of the budget cuts, some of the changes to working conditions in terms of the hour cutbacks, the changes in healthcare benefits, that's concerning. And I would hate that you would lose, we all would lose the best asset that this library has, which is great employees. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Lisa Wilson.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I would encourage the board to make an effort to hear from the staff, whether this would be a meeting between all the staff and all the board, or perhaps something that would be a little easier, like an email survey. It has been a little over a year since we've had a change in administration, and I think that the staff has a lot of valuable feedback in how that is going and how that affects patrons and the community library as a whole. I would just like to say that in talking with my fellow staff members, there are many who have low morale, and there are a lot of different reasons that have to do with decisions made by the administration. And I would encourage the board to hear what the staff have to say.
May I ask you one question? Were you appraised of the fact that directors were involved with an evaluation of the director recently, and did you express your concern to your department heads? I mean, did you express your concerns to your department head prior to coming tonight?
I spoke with Celeste about some of this a number of months ago when she made a decision, when she made an announcement in a meeting that she was going to change staff benefits. I had a discussion with her about that, and it was not satisfactory. And then there have been many things that have happened, including eliminating hours for employees in circulation and restricting hours for employees in adult reference and children's reference to what would be an equivalent of about a 20 to 30% decrease in salary and benefits. I would encourage everyone to think about what a 20 to 30% decrease in salary would mean to you and to your family. And
Okay.
these are people who make maybe $25,000 to $30,000. Imagine what that would do when you have to try to meet your obligations. and
Okay, but I'm
suddenly
still
you
not
have to-
straight. Who did you visit with about your concerns?
I spoke with Celeste.
With
in
Celeste,
December.
okay. Because other avenue for other staff members would be your department heads.
I have been attending board meetings since December, and I have not heard any of the department heads bring up staff concerns to the board. From December through April, I do not recall any department heads bringing staff concerns to the board.
I guess what he's asking is just a simple question. You talk to your department head about these concerns.
Well, some of these things don't affect me directly.
No, but I mean,
So
that's
my
what-
job has not changed, my hours have not changed. So I wouldn't necessarily say, I have asked my department head if my job would change and if my hours would change.
Okay.
But I personally have not been affected, except that my husband also works here. And so there have been drastic cuts, and it is devastating to some families, to the effect that people will have to look for other jobs. You will be losing staff. And what's happening is, for example, a person who worked in circulation, who worked 35 hours a week regularly, left and was replaced by 2 hourly people who do not receive benefits. She received benefits. And then everyone else's hours were cut drastically. And that's where you're seeing the cuts in circulation staff wages. It is hurting families, people who own homes, people who pay property taxes, staff that you see when you come in on desk every time that you come in. It is a difficult situation. And these aren't the only concerns. I don't know all of the concerns. I'm asking you to try to find out from staff what is happening, good and bad things that have happened in the last year. Just seek to hear from them. In particular, maybe seek to hear from them before you make decisions about evaluations for the executive director.
You know, what you are stating now is very important to everybody present tonight, the concerned parties as well as the board members. We don't want to reinvent, what we have been all going through. And any changes requires a lot of sacrifices. And believe me, I'm hearing you and I feel for you. It is certainly good to have an open conversation between the staff, the board, everybody involved. And I believe that it was, the tone that we had set. Open conversation, nothing hidden, okay? And this is why, we have the camera rolling all the time. I believe that, we have to give Ms. Sellett lots of applause for whatever she has tried to do. Of course, she is in a position where, decisions have to be made. It's just the first draft, I hope so. Like, whenever we heard from our governor what he was going to do, and he has done, of course, tears were shed. And I hope that, all concerns should be addressed and we should have an open conversation. Okay.
I agree with you and I understand. And the problem is that these cuts have already been made. They were made starting in February. So for a couple of months or a month and a half, cuts have been made. And in the past, this kind of thing has happened through attrition when a staff member would leave and then hours would be not filled. In this case, it's a staff member left and there was an opportunity for there to be attrition, and there was a choice made to bring in hourly staff who do not receive benefits. And I think that that is the trend. That is what we will be seeing, is staff members not replaced by other staff who receive benefits, but the library will be flooded with hourly staff who do not receive benefits. And there's a reason why jobs offer benefits, and that is to attract and retain the best possible staff to offer the best possible customer service to our patrons.
Thank you. Caleb?
Hello. I actually don't have a whole lot to add to what Lisa said. I'm really proud of her for standing up and saying that. I feel a lot of those same things. I've been coming to the board meetings since December now, and I just feel like the board deserves to know that a lot of people who work here are upset, because we are, and nobody has, I don't think anybody has told that to you. So I think you deserve to know that.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there one more?
No, that's it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm very reluctant to speak during this part of the meeting because this is the public's time to speak, but I will make an exception and ask for permission this time. The board has a lot of concerns, and first of all, the staff. And we know that 2 years ago when we had the troubles that we went through, well, there was a great deal of gnashing of teeth down here. The people upstairs who were checking out books, bringing their children to the library, they didn't know what was going on because everything ran well. So you all did a marvelous job at keeping this place going under very trying circumstances. We heard a lot of what was said then. We changed managers, we changed directors. And since then, we have been trying to follow the normal board duties as a typical board of trustees or directors is charged with. And that is to balance the needs of everybody. And in the case here, I wrote them down, I have a poor memory here, so we have the public, and hours and services are what they're interested in. We have taxpayers who are facing an 11% hike on their taxes, property taxes. The budget comes from the city. We get what the city gives us. We can go over there and ask for more, and we can stomp on our feet and ask for more, but we pretty much get what the mayor says we're going to get. And I don't think we had a cut this year, but we didn't have a gain either. The benefits also come from the city. They're negotiated with the city, and we either sign on with them or negotiate our own. And as a small group, we probably would be little lambs out there in the world of health insurance, wolves. In terms of the board, you speaking with the board directly, this is the forum. In fact, I was surprised it took so long for people to come to any meetings and start speaking. Not because I thought there was a tumult underneath the things, but because just share with us what you're thinking. If you want to speak with the board about your personal situation, and we have more than 3 of us, that's a public meeting. So we have to have two-day public notice and then the public sitting in on your meeting to discuss your concerns. I suppose we could do that, but then we have issues when the board steps out of its role, and that happened last time. There was consternation too, because a couple of board members took a step forward and said, do this now. And I think the staff who was sensitive to what the role management of the board said, whoa, we don't want that. And you don't want 9 bosses walking around here, I guarantee it. I'm not trying to make a specific point relative to any of your concerns, except that we're here, we listen to you on certainly one night a month. We need to be careful if we step out of our roles. I'll stop there. And if you want to come back, rebuttal, go ahead.
I just have one thing to say, is that the board as a body oversees the executive director. And there's
Yes.
a philosophy of management that I feel like is detrimental to staff and patrons. And it seems to be a management by spreadsheet, where dollar amounts need to be reduced, and it's more beneficial to cut staff that receive benefits, because you can get double for your money when you cut those benefits and your staff that receives benefits. That is troubling to me, and I do feel like the board has a role in that. The board oversees the executive director. She reports to you, you evaluate her. And that's where I see the board's role. And that's what I would like you to understand, that you will start losing staff members. They will be replaced by hourlies, I'm assuming. That's what's been happening. There's nothing wrong with that, but that means that you'll have a much more transitory staff. Maybe 2 or 3 years, working 12 to 15 hours a week. You will lose the breadth of knowledge and the training that you have. We have an incredibly stable staff. I've heard Celeste stand and say, we have a great staff. And I believe it with all my heart. I wouldn't want to work anywhere else. But when you on one hand say we have a great staff, and on the other hand say it doesn't matter how well you do in your evaluations or how great you are, I'm slashing you, I'm cutting you, and you will not be able to afford to work here anymore. That's all I want to say, is I do believe the board has a role.
Well, we have one employee, and everybody else works for that employee. And I think what you're saying, put yourself in, when you leave tonight, put yourself in a board member seat and look what's happening across Wright Street. And what's worth staying open Thursday nights? What's worth keeping hours on Sunday? I mean, everything comes at a cost. And unfortunately, our service is people. So when we don't have the money to pay people, the cost is we lose people. Now, we have a great staff, you're right. And I hope everybody, we can say it in a year with everybody still here. But these are times that call for change in direction, and we need to do it as humanely as possible. And we need, but the prime directive is keep the library open, keep the services provided, give the taxpayer the value for their taxes.
Okay, let's move on to items of action and discussion. Buildings and grounds, do we have any report? Technology. I'm moving policy up of my own discretion before the next one to policy, the circulation and interlibrary loan policy you had before us. It is ready for adoption. Do I have a motion to approve that policy?
Move we approve the circulation and library loan policy.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Circulation and interlibrary loan. If not, do I hear, all those in favor of this policy, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Financial policy, finance. policy. Do I hear a motion to approve that?
Move we approve the finance policy.
Or the action item.
That's under E.
Did you move that?
Yeah,
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
yeah, on page 7, it's not really a discussion, it's sort of under competitive prices. It says chapter 675 will be on there, it's actually 65, so we should,
Oh, so that's the typo we should fix.
yeah, it's 65 Act 5, to be consistent with the Act part of this thing. 75 is the local library act,
Jane, where was that again?
page 7.
7? Okay. And what should it be?
Should be chapter 65, Act 5,
65, Act
5.
5. Okay. Let's, non-sequential change, we'll just go with it. Any other questions? All those in favor of this policy, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, do I have a motion to bring back, because we tabled last time the bylaws, and I need a motion to bring it back to the floor. Is there a motion to bring back the bylaws?
I move that we bring back the circulation interlibrary loan.
No, just the bylaws.
Oh, just bylaws,
For
oh,
the
sorry.
board.
All right, I have my other, yep, just, I move that we bring the bylaws back to the meeting tonight.
Is there a second for that?
I second it.
All those in favor, please say,
Can I
signify.
Make one comment. I think the date of approval needs to be changed, or because it's tabled, you go back to the April date, or is it the May date? At the very, very, very end. Those series of dates on which it's been amended, it still reads April 14.
Okay.
Just a question, I don't know. Does it?
It
you
would not have
revert
been
to the date?
adopted at April, today's date would be the date.
So it should be May?
May 12th.
Okay. So that's
May 12th.
that's cosmetic, but.
Yeah, May 12th on that one, last page. All those in favor of bringing the motion back to the floor now? We have not voted on that. Please signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, now would have been the time for their correction. Because now we're discussing the policy for bylaws of the Board of Trustees. Are there any questions or concerns?
I have one
Yeah.
question. Under 2A, we should indicate the composition of the board and say no more than one may be a member of the city council. Does it work the other way too? Must we always have one? Is that addressed in the policy? Not that we're looking to get rid of anybody.
No, state statute requires one, or not, it doesn't require one. State statute says the same thing our policy does, says no more than one, so, but there's no
So there could be
requirement
two.
for one. You could add a requirement, I suppose.
Well, we can't force the mayor to
Yeah,
make
that's the
appointments, so
thing.
that's.
I don't
No,
know if you could do
but
it.
but does the city have a policy that states that there will be one?
Not that I know of, but
Okay.
it's been.
Then that's just our policy that there will be. And this has happened since, Charlie Smythe probably was the last council member, or first council member.
We
And
had,
Diane
first
and
one, Diane Marlin then,
Well,
followed
but Diane
Charlie.
was Charlie,
She followed
after Charlie.
Charlie.
And Eric was
And
after.
then Eric.
And then Eric Jacobson. And now
So-
we don't.
Yeah.
Well, policies usually are things that are, not as we'd like them to be, but should we put a sentence in here about the board would prefer the mayor, among the mayor's appointments, there's always one from the city council on the board, or do we
I
just
think
want
as
to
long
let
as,
that go?
as long as it's our policy, and we're saying we want no more than one, I think that's fair. Because we could stack it with city council, and I don't think we want to do
No,
that.
they don't.
State statute says you can't have more than one, so.
Well, let's leave it behind. I
Let's leave
withdraw
it.
the suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there other questions or concerns? If not, we've got a motion. All those in favor of the policy for the
The bylaws.
bylaws for the board of trustees, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay, the next one is the amendment to the health insurance waiver. Celeste, would you like to speak to that?
I would love to speak to that. The first thing I want to say is that this is extremely complicated because the Affordable Care Act is extremely complicated, and the particular situation that we're in looking at the reality of having to change benefits that we promised people when they, in good faith, signed up for a particular health care waiver benefit, makes it very tricky because what our options are with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act and tax rules that come into effect June 30th, 2015, limit some of our options. We had a meeting last week, a very brief meeting with not a lot of information for staff, which was probably more upsetting than helpful, but we wanted to make sure that people had some idea that changes had to come, they were not our choice to make the changes, and that we didn't have answers. And the answer right now is we still don't have answers. But I am more hopeful today after talking with our attorney again and the accountant at Baker and Tilly through the city again than I was before, that we will be able to do a similar kind of thing that is within the constraints of the IRS rules and the Affordable Care Act regulations. The board could continue to offer the benefit as it exists right now, but the penalty is $100 per day per person that we provide a benefit for reimbursement. The reason it's developed that way is so that employers don't do this anymore. But in a conversation I had, 2 conversations I had today, it looks like we can come up with something legal without a penalty that keeps staff whole. So I have some more calls to make. I've got some names of attorneys who will talk to us. This is extremely complicated and difficult, and we're doing our due diligence so that as I give you something to move ahead with, you can feel comfortable that we are on the right side of the law and being respectful of staff and the benefits they expected to have and the amount of money they expected to be. So reimbursed and incentive are not words that we should be using. Those are words that look as if you're trying to go around the Affordable Care Act. So I'll try to use very concise language and make sure that it is appropriate. So we're working to find out what are the words we need to use. We gave you a policy, a potential policy, a healthcare waiver incentive policy, similar to the city of Urbana's. But incentive is not a word that we need to be looking at. So what we have is something that would match very closely to what Urbana has while bringing in part of our policy, which is if people work more than their guaranteed number of hours, they receive more benefit. We took parts of ours and put it into there. So within the next little while, I hope, with the experts we're talking to in HR, in accounting, and in legal, we can have something that we can firmly tell you we can do legally that keeps staff where they want them to be. There are a couple different ways to get there. We're looking for an affordable way that keeps staff whole and is affordable for the library. And so,
And Lisa, we're not able to share all that right now, but I do think that we're concerned and we are looking at this, and what she's talking about is a lot of legalese, and right now we've had problem having a lawyer that defines this. The acts are all new, the fines are all new.
I'm not upset about any of this at all.
Well, that's what you're,
not my concern.
but you're talking about the broad picture so that it is a part of this. It is all part of this.
So,
Yeah, so this is the first I've heard of this, I think. So are you saying, I'm not getting a clear picture. Are you saying that it's not required that we offer an incentive waiver of the same amount for every employee anymore?
That's right.
so I've had some conversations today, and there are different things that might be able to happen. And so I'm going to follow up on that.
Okay.
And then I will be in touch. And maybe we'll have a special board meeting, because if I can get information and we can move something forward, then maybe we are able to do that. So the health waiver incentive policy that's in front of you, if that's how the board chooses to move ahead as one option, has to be that what people are paid is the same no matter what. So the board would determine an amount that would be paid to staff, and then it would be prorated based on the percentage of full-time, but it's the same amount. And so some people would end up getting more money than they were receiving before. And depending on the dollar amount the board chose, some people might be getting some less, depending on the dollar amount. I've listed in a memo a couple of different choices, not saying that we would go with one, but looking at a couple of things. I'm not saying we would go with any of those. It is possible that there's another way to approach this, and before I say what that might be, I want to have more behind me.
Okay, I mean, I think that's what we expect. We expect a couple or three options. In a lot of decisions, it would help to have a few options.
Yes, and I only got calls back this afternoon on what the possibilities of particular options would be, because I just don't want to come up and say, we could do this, and find out, no, we can't do that. I shouldn't even bring up that. So,
Well, I think what I suggest we do is introduce this tonight. And then if we have information out early enough to carefully consider it, if in the June meeting, and give the staff plenty of time to look at it too, we could put in an action item in June.
I don't think we have enough information right now.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. But let's introduce this as a, I think it's like a shell.
discussion evening.
Yeah, and I
We
agree.
don't even need to show it because we don't.
Well, I want us to start the clock so we can actually approve it in June.
Okay.
If we have the information.
If we have the
to do it.
information,
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good way to
Yeah.
move forward.
So that's why I'm just
We're
saying.
trying to figure out what does compliance mean, and that's, I think
Right.
we're learning that.
Exactly.
And the fact that we can accommodate some of the way the library has done things rather than just going with the city, that'd be more advantageous as well. So, yeah.
Exactly,
we need
yeah.
a little more data.
And there's a limited number of people who really know how this stuff works, so,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yes.
And they are very expensive, as it turns out. But we need to get it right. We owe it to
We have to get it
staff
right.
and we owe it to our community to get it right, so we're going to do that.
Remember those 2,700 pages we were supposed to read, vote for and find out what's in it? We're not, this is one of the things that was in it.
So that's the one policy. It's out there it is one approach the board could take, and the other approach I bring may not even need to be a policy. So that is one piece. The next two pieces we have out there is general benefits, and then there's the vacation leave policy. General benefits has an important piece. Part of the general benefits is the health reimbursement plan, which in order to not pay the penalty of $100 per day per person, starting July 1st, that part needs to be stricken from our policy. We need to not be doing that anymore. So I've given us a start date of if you were to, what we want to be able to do, not knowing what will move ahead July 1st in this moment, is we want to be able to, in May and June, continue our current practice to reimburse staff as they expected they would be reimbursed. So that's why I have a start effective date for that policy, even though you vote on it early in the month, that the start date would be the June 26th, so that people would, in that bill's payment cycle, receive the money they're expecting. So May and June, no surprises. And then we've certainly cleared the deadline of June 30th as well. So that's the big important part of general benefits.
Actually, I have one picky thing.
Yes, please.
On page 3,
Yes.
the language here, let me cite it. It highlighted in one place. Let me see where the other one is. Okay, number 6. The last sentence under number 6, or the last line, if the library receives a discount, it's passed on to the employees or board member who will pay appropriate sales tax. Procedures will be set by library administration. So if we're passing a policy, do we want to say will be, or do we say policies are set?
Sure, this is old language. We can absolutely have
Okay,
that say
'cause-
something. Procedures are set.
Okay, because
Have
yeah,
them
that
set
was
something.
okay.
What?
Yeah, it said it's picky, but enough that said, wait, this is a policy. I don't wanna
Does this
talk
happen
about
often?
What did you?
Staff usually,
Here.
this
I
library
see.
discount?
I have to ask Karen, I think
Procedures
upon,
rather than
I would say that regularly the library's ordering something for a staff person, but I don't know the volume of
I
it.
see at least one head nodding up and down, so,
Good.
okay, thank you.
So back to the health insurance, I think one reason we wanted to kind of start talking about this option early on was that in case we had to go with this, people would be able to plan a little bit what their expenses would be in July, August, through the end of the year. So maybe we should discuss this at least to the extent of, as a fallback, this is what might be implemented.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there would be, you're saying 3 options here for flat amounts that people would get to waive their health insurance carriage, or their coverage that's provided through a spouse on a group plan, right? So there's $132, $200, or $333, and we think that would be taxable.
It would absolutely be taxable, which
Okay.
is a change from what is happening right now. So people are getting reimbursed pre-tax.
And that would be for full-time, so if you were half-time, you would get half that.
Correct. So the different factors, so there are a number of different factors, including there is a possibility, so we put so much money aside for this particular type of healthcare healthcare benefit, let me call it. And in the revised budget, which is why Chris was moving policies above the budget, we had to include, since it was taxable, money set aside for IMRF, FICA, and Medicare. So you'll see at the top, which we don't need to look at now, but we talked with the city to say, we have a change in our circumstances for next year's budget for the city. Will you be able to make this accommodation for us? So we're looking at a pool of around $35,000 that's been set aside for this reimbursement policy. It is possible, though, that the pool of people will be larger than the pool of people in it, or it could change. We have some changes in staffing that are occurring, and we are determining how that will happen. So we are trying to balance the amount of money between the staff that are getting the library's benefits and then this. So we're looking at how we can flex the pool a little bit, so perhaps we can offer more than that 333, which would offer more percentage-wise to other staff as well. So there are a couple of balls in the air as to who the pool has to be open to, which will make a difference too, and if some people leave and some people come, again, how that looks at the big insurance picture. So it is very likely that we could offer more than that under this plan, but I'm tracking down some loose ends as far as who again can be in this pool, if that makes sense. So that would, I would expect the 333 to be a little bit lower than what I would want to offer. And I think we can find the funds to be able to accommodate that so that people are less in a bad position. So it's less of an impact is what I'm trying to say. So I would say that that number is lower than I would want to put forward as an offer.
Okay, so, yeah, I guess I would say 333 would be a minimum. I don't think I'd mind do the 132 or 200. With the 333, we would spend a little more than half our budget for the remainder of this year. And then, well, it would be a little bit more than what we'd budgeted, but I'd say that would be pretty close to what we had budgeted, so that would be my minimum. I wouldn't want to go below that, but if there's a way to go higher, we could look at that too.
So one of the approaches is, one, we could pay more money up front this first half of the year to get people where they were, knowing that some people are receiving more benefits. Actually, everyone receives the same benefit because they're getting the same amount of money proportionate. And then the board can decide, especially after we have more information from our professionals, come January, come July, these are numbers we're talking about, come January, it could be that the board wants to offer a different type, and we have to offer a different type of plan, but that would give people many months between open enrollment and now to think about what choices they want to make about healthcare. And so we could kind of front load it now.
How much do people
less
have to,
later.
if people are half-time, they want to go on our health care plan, how much would they pay?
It's $320 is half.
Okay.
And so some people are at a slightly higher amount if you're 25 or 20 hours a week, but many people are 20 hours a week. And we have a number of people on the health insurance plan currently who are part-time employees.
Just to be clear, when you talk about what we can offer, we're talking incentives, not the basic policy.
Correct. The policies are provided to us via the city, and soon they're just starting a committee of people with their unions and HR and such to talk with the healthcare providers about what next year will look like. We don't know what next year will look like yet.
Yeah.
That's one of the unknowns.
Other comments? Okay, how about the leave and vacation? You want to touch on
I've got a
that?
couple good things in there. We want to point out a couple of benefits that we're putting into staff. It has been requested, and I support, including in-laws, as an example, having a broader scope of people for whom one can take sick time as well as bereavement time. And so we heard people that this was important to them, and what we thought would be a fair thing to look at is the nepotism policy. So our nepotism policy says, these are a group of people that you can't supervise or hire or have control over in the job. So if those people are close enough to you as a near relative that you can't supervise them, then perhaps they are close enough to you that if they're sick, you can use your sick time to be with them and to make sure that they get to the doctor and such. So that is why we chose that wording. It's because it's the wording we used in the nepotism policy. So that's the way the change there. A proposed change, it's up to you. So. Not today, though.
Other comments from the leave and vacation policy? If not, this is open for the next month's votes. Would that be what you'd suggest? Because I think we want to digest.
I think anything we do is going to be a small step. I mean, there's so many unknowns about what's going to be offered privately, what the ACA requires, what's available. So I think we're just taking small steps and trying to get from here to this afternoon and worry about tomorrow then. So.
I think that's all we can do.
Yeah, I don't mean to be cavalier. I mean, I understand
we're not trying to
you're
be-
consumers of this product, but we just don't know what we don't know right now. And we'll have to learn as we go forward with it.
And in defense of the staff, it has been researched as thoroughly at this stage of the game as it could be, I think, because we tried to have information for tonight and it wasn't available.
So the other thing I would just put out that I mentioned in the memo is that these personnel policies are written in older language and in older style. And what we, in talking with the HR department at the city, who've been assisting us, is we'd like to do is reevaluate these and use more contemporary language and streamline them, keeping the benefits that are there and making things more clear and breaking out the policy so there would be perhaps a vacation policy, a leave of absence policy, bereavement policy. So when you go to find something, it's easier. So we're going to be working with the city over the summer and really take a look at these and then come back to you in the fall with our recommendations with the city's, the HR department's recommendation, because none of us here are HR professionals. And what we have experienced over the past year, at least, as we've dug into the policies, is that we need HR expertise here, and some of the things we run into are because the HR expertise wasn't utilized, and so we would like to do that. So expect to have a really good comprehensive look at these over the summer, and we'll bring you back some things in the fall. But again, not looking to diminish any benefits, just make them clearer.
So when you change the language in the vacation, well, I guess just general benefit, I guess it's vacation leave I'm looking at. For salaried to part-time, is that part of the streamlining, or is that what does that? It doesn't seem to have any real effect. Is it just a change in language?
It's a change in language, and it's more accurate. So some of our salaried means something to the federal government with the Federal Labor Standards Act, and so some of our full-time employees are full-time employees, but they're not salaried employees, given the definition in the Federal Labor Standards Act. So we thought we'll just make it very clear, full-time and part-time. Same people, just calling them by factually accurate names that.
So we have full-time, part-time, and hourly, is that the three
Correct.
things? Have anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, some places have really extravagant lists of kinds of staff. Ours is pretty simple.
Okay, there will be much digesting between now and the next board meeting. The next item I'd like to move on to would be the disillusionment of the Financial Committee. This is an ad hoc committee that I appointed, and so I think that I can dissolve it by saying that it's dissolved, because any ad hoc committee has a period less than a year that it can function, and for this year, we've developed our budget It may get some changes, but we have methods by which we can go at changing those. So I've declared that the Finance Committee's work is done for this year. Okay.
At least you didn't declare us dissolute.
No. Okay, the financial amendments for the 16 budget you have in your packet. Is there a motion to approve, well, do we want to approve it, or do we want to, yeah, okay. Do I have a motion for approval of the financial FY budget? I'm sorry, 16.
FY 16.
16 budget.
Can I make an amendment as a non-board member?
Please.
You can make a suggestion.
I would like to make a suggestion. When I talked with Elizabeth at the city about the dollar amount we'd like added in for IMRF with like a total, I gave her 7,000. So this is the budget that will go to city council. So they're going to expect to see 7,000 as opposed to 7,140. So I'll backwards do the math to take the $140 out within the FICA and IMRF ones with your approval
Good.
Okay.
and get you what the numbers are.
Did I hear a motion for the approval of that?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very, very, very good. Education and training, do we have anything to be added at this time? Friends of the Library, Anna, anything?
I was not able to go to the meeting, but it must have been a very, very good one. They're going to amend or recreate their bylaws. I have a copy of that, and I have not had a chance really to study them, but they look quite thorough. That looks very, very good. And Celeste, you were probably at that meeting, so maybe you could add something. But, I got a nice packet of stuff.
So they're already preparing for the August book sale. They've been checking out their stacks of books in the closet. They're happy with how the books are coming in, so they're excited about that. And they are happily preparing for getting ready to sell a lot of items to support the library. Also, we're working on a memorandum of understanding between the library board and the Friends of the Library Board. They take in money and we take in money for them in a couple of different ways. And it's common enough to have the boards have agreements with each other about what they will do to support each other. And so we've taken something from the ALA website and they've made a couple of suggestions to it, and then we've added these couple of particular financial things. So at their meeting in August, they're going to give us their last changes that then I can bring to you, and Anna has seen it, to see what you think as well. So we'll just move ahead with having something formalized between the two bodies.
I know they're discussing the frequency of holding book sales. Did they come to any conclusion on what would be the right number for them per year?
They thought that they would wait and see what happened in August, what the stock looks like, and see how busy it is. It's so easy to get used books on the internet that they are wanting to do a sale when they feel like they'll do really well. It's a lot of work to put on, and so they're gonna evaluate after August.
Okay.
The next item is the Library Foundation. They've recently appointed 2 new people, and I don't think we're at liberty to announce those at this time. Heartland Library, we had a board member that was nominated as a trustee, and that announcement has not yet been made public, so we will announce that at the next meeting. I might say that Jeff Bant was the individual that we nominated on that board from our board. Report of the administrative staff. Celeste, do you have anything else you'd like to?
I think we're in pretty good shape, actually. Thanks.
I guess I'd follow up on that earlier comment. I did kind of like getting the separate staff reports.
Okay.
Is there, what are the trade-offs? Is it easier for staff to put it all in your report? Do they still send you reports and you combine them? Or how's it work?
So I had feedback from a number of different board members that felt like the staff reports were too granular and very operational and not really at the board level. And so I had suggested to them, what did they think of combining and giving a look at the library topically as opposed to departmentally. And so we thought we would give that a try.
Historically, we might say there's been volumes from some and not very much from others, and we've tried to come to a compromise on it, and this is where we are, and that she was combining now more recently in order to get rid of the volume. But I I hear the remark, and so there are things that need to be alerted to that we don't all necessarily know about.
Well, I was one who thought they were excessive and probably took too much time to prepare. I mean, I didn't care if two people had met in-house to talk about this or that, but that's what we were getting. I think there was probably encouragement to have long reports, so that we had long reports. I don't know how many of us ever read those things cover to cover, but I'm sure some did. I tried, but I
definitely, at one point, was wondering whether staff didn't have better things to do with their time. They were quite voluminous. If there's short things that they would like to communicate to the board, I think it's important that we hear that, perhaps directly, but I like the consolidation a lot.
Well, and they're sending me the information that I'm combining together, so it is the board, it's their words coming through, and I'm coordinating them so they're thematically placed. So if you'd like to see a little bit more, I can make it longer.
I just think when I was, especially the first year, and I'm still not very sharp on what's going on in the library, but I think it really helped to see, for me, especially from adult services and stuff, all the things you do. But maybe that's just me, I don't know. If that's not what everybody else wants.
Part of what we're trying to do, though, is make sure the board's seeing what's happening with the library as a whole. We're trying to look at the library as a whole in a number of different ways. And so giving you the calendar that shows all the events happening, that's one way to say, here are all the things happening at the library. So instead of Mary having to take the time to write up, these people did this event, this, and this, it's on the calendar. And you can tell when staff are off-site because it says library staff at blah, blah, blah. And so what I've been trying to do is highlight ones that are special partnerships, either it's a once-a-year kind of thing or a new kind of partnership, and you'll see this month especially. A good chunk of the report is all the great work people did getting out in the community, either starting new initiatives or following up on other things. So we're trying to really give you the best of the best information and again, use staff time well, because it does take a while for people to write those up. So again, I love suggestions, what you think would be best, but we're trying to get the information out there so it's easily accessible, and looking at the library as a whole, that's important to me.
Well, I think the way you said it jogged my mind, my thinking too. I think the really good stuff was buried in with the three of us met for coffee to talk about the new awnings. You know, it didn't. There's too much in there, and we missed the good stuff. I may miss the good stuff. So I would just as soon have it edited out. I mean, you guys who wrote them know whether did you like doing them? Did you feel they were was worthwhile work and
like doing
well received and
don't ask that.
Get praise for them regularly? I mean, if you like doing them.
I mean,
Yes.
I mean, my reports that I keep for myself, I mean, I write them, they're probably a little longer, and I probably send a slightly more summarized version to Celeste. But my reports are, because for me, they're just for myself and for my department, it's a great, I have almost,
So you do them anyway?
I mean, they're not much longer, but I should probably take some of the granularity out, where I feel like, okay, this is probably not information that's going to be really relevant to you, but it's important for me to have it on record. But it's not, I'm not taking out 50%. I may be taking out 20% of detail. But,
I know these are done for the benefit of the board, and I agree with, sometimes I'd have to kind of pick through to get the highlights. And then sometimes if I had a lot of extra time, I didn't mind seeing who was meeting for coffee, but a lot of times there's a lot of information we're trying to absorb, analyze, and so I do appreciate having more of a summary. But is there an audience for these staff reports besides the board? Is there anybody, do staff read them? And this is what I'm getting at. So besides being highlighted for, is this one method that the staff are learning what other departments are doing or learning what their own departments are doing? And maybe the question isn't so much what the board needs to see, but if the staff is looking for a different way of getting information communicated or valuing that communication?
What other purpose do they have?
I kind of like to hear from a staff member that's not a director. Or, is that what I mean?
Manager.
No.
Who didn't prepare these monthly progress reports?
Our students read them. I'm not a staff member, but our
Yeah.
students at GISLIS read the reports.
I'd like to hear from a staff member. You're a staff member, aren't you?
Yes, I work in circulation, and I do read those reports every month. I hadn't been aware that they were being consolidated. I actually just emailed Celeste about that last week. But yes, that was the way that I could see both what other departments were doing, but also what different department heads felt was most important to share with the board, and what information was not going through that sometimes that I thought should be there. There was,
Okay.
but it was a good way of just getting information about what's been going on. Sometimes you can get kind of stuck in your own department, and it was good to see a whole list of things that's going on.
And we might look at how it's done. It might be a web piece that you have access to and that not everybody in the world has access to. So we'll review that.
That's useful to hear.
Well,
Thank you.
I guess I was one of the objectors to it. Now, I have no, if it's used by somebody other than us,
Yeah.
and it's already being done anyway,
Yeah.
then I have no problem with it being
I
shared.
thought it was
but-
just being done for us, and I
Well,
thought.
that was
I
the original
felt guilty,
purpose of it,
quite
but
frankly.
I'm listening to some of the comments saying, although we were what was directed, it sounds like it had a wider audience.
Yeah.
And there was some disappointment when the information was not coming the way it was expected to come. So whether maybe it's not the board report, maybe there's another vehicle for getting this information shared.
Anka, you wanted to respond to that.
Oh, just saying that, internally, we have journals for every department that staff have access to. It's on essentially an intranet. And so, in my department, and I think it's in some of the other departments, I'm actually not 100% sure, but I have a link on the Archives Journal to the monthly reports. So, for the department, so if anybody's interested in my department or another department or any other staff in the library, they could look at that, and they would, if they want to see the other 20% that maybe didn't make it into the board report.
So you're saying that all that's up there now? Like if we wanted to see Mary's report, we would go to your link?
No, mine is just the archives.
It's for the
We
staff.
have
Just
my
for-
department. It's just for the
Oh,
staff.
I see, okay.
It's internal. So-
This is all available to the staff in their own departmental logs.
But it's not
Different-
available.
sorry, different information is available, but each department has their own log.
Well, my sense is if we try to design something tonight, it's going to look like a camel. So I'd say maybe, Celeste, if you want to work with the staff, and if there's something out there that should be publicized more widely in terms of progress by each department each month, do it, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm removing my objection to those things.
I think what I'm hearing, and I have to do this once a week and it drives me nuts, we'd hate to think that staff was generating things for us that puts them to a lot of work, and we think there's too much information or whatever. However, if there are other uses, i.e. between departments so they understand each other, and then to speak to some of these concerns, perhaps we should think of some way that departments, staff, whoever can send us things directly in the form of a monthly thing or something. So if people feel that things are not funneled through, there should be some way that they can funnel them through without
Making more work.
making more work or having to come in and speak or whatever. So, I mean, is it a function? There's so many people in the world that end up doing these reports and they don't know why they do them, they don't know where they go, and nobody reads them, and it just takes up a lot of time. But if we could investigate what the purpose of these things are and how we might facilitate better communication with them, that would be cool. But not for us. We're all feeling guilty that we would be requiring you to do something that is like.
And I would suggest to sort of modify what you're saying is that maybe instead of sending things directly to us, have a website that everybody can get access to and take a look at it. I mean, I'm a little reluctant to get communications directly on a regular basis. It bypasses.
I don't know what I was saying.
Bypasses managers and directors and things like that.
If people are feeling that things aren't getting to us that should, there should be some way that they should get to us without feeling that it's providing more paper.
I guess, sorry, were you done?
Go ahead, yeah, sorry.
I guess that if they're already generating something and sending it to you, it doesn't seem like it would be that much trouble just to put that in the packet. right? Like if they're already doing a report similar to what they were and you're summarizing all those,
I'm cutting and pasting them in, I'm just topically putting it in.
yeah.
And
So,
then I'm cutting down on some of the things that are just a duplicate of what's in the calendar. That's what you're seeing.
I guess before it seemed like I had a better idea maybe how, I don't know, how busy they were or what people actually did in the departments. It seemed like it was a little bit more of an active report. Does that make sense?
So what I have been told by people, different people, is the people who write the reports and some staff, is that they felt they had to justify their work to the board.
Ah, so that's why they look so busy. No?
Well, they are busy. I mean, so, yes, some of that, but people are busy. So the question is, what is it the board needs to have to do your job as the board? And what are ways that we can get that to you that is efficient with everybody's time? For that particular document. Now, I'm open to what people think is a good idea. So, we will start having some conversations with staff and see what it is staff feel they need.
Okay.
And then I will
And if we
check
can
back with you.
piggyback on that, then that's.
And see what it is you think you need to feel apprised of what's happening at the library. I responded to some feedback, and we'll take it from there. We'll touch base with you next month with some feedback
Okay.
from the staff.
Sounds
In
good.
the
And the
meantime,
directors.
I have a specific question.
Yes.
Under finance and facilities, difficult to put a value on volunteer time, and the last sentence is volunteer, in Illinois, volunteer time was valued at $24.74 in 2014. Is that per hour, or is there
It
a
is
million
per-
or 100,000?
Sorry,
There's a-
something got cut off there. There should have been a number. Chris had
Okay.
asked, like, how much are we receiving in benefit from staff?
There is a national
So-
volunteer board that calculates for each
Yes.
state, and
Well,
that's where she cut but she didn't add, it got cut.
There's something else
Yeah.
that needs to be in there. Is that, well, that may
Well,
be
the
here.
number, the real number.
The number of
Well, there's a
hours.
2474.
That's from a report that's filed every month.
That's per hour. I apologize.
That's per
a-
hour.
Okay.
A loose.
Here it
thread.
is, 2307 per hour, so it's just the 2 words per hour.
Okay.
I just did what I should have done
Okay.
2 days ago. Sorry, forget it.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration. Or Kathy, do you have anything additional to add? Mary?
I know a lot about volunteers now.
And it's a valid point to let everybody know what our volunteers are
Those
worth.
wonderful.
Yeah. Laura isn't here. Anka, you have anything new? Don? Okay, in terms
Can I
of,
go back one more? I
Sure,
apologize.
sure.
There was something in my report. All staff have been asked to read the full policy manual as it was when you voted and changed everything. We printed them all out. We gave each department a brand-new binder with all the policies. We've asked people to read them. It's a long binder. It's on the website. We have one for you, Anna. You'd asked for a print copy as well.
Thank you.
So I had written, because I thought everyone was done by Friday, but they're not. So we are continuing to have staff read it. They're all being paid for their time. Some people have off-desk time that they're reading in. Other people are being paid to sit in the back and read, because, for example, shelvers don't have off-desk time. So we are making sure that staff have the ability to take the time to read the policies, to know where the library stands on all these policies, so they can follow them and help patrons follow them as well as appropriate. So it's not quite as done as I thought it was. I apologize.
Could we, before we leave that topic, we heard a lot of concerns tonight about kind of the shift in from longtime employees to the newer employees without benefits. I think I missed one of the main budget meetings, so I don't know if that was discussed much, but was that presented as kind of, was that presented to the board as an option as far as we either do this or we cut hours, or how was that handled?
So it wasn't presented as an either-or kind of thing. We've been talking with board members, and we've been looking at a number of factors, such as how busy the library is. And we were looking at statistics on renewals and looking at our CERC numbers. On the stat sheet, if I could take 1 second, on the statistics sheet, I added a new column that I mentioned last month. I've done it for myself, but wanted to print it out for you all as well, and we'll update it. It shows the comparison of year-to-date, what our statistics are like, And in a number of the categories, our statistics are down quite a bit. So I will say right up front, the reference number we expect to be down quite a bit because we are following the state standards to the letter now. So the reference statistics look really, really, really different. And we're just going to go with this year as the new normal. So circulation, for example, is up a little bit compared to last year, but the number of self-checked items and checked out items is a big factor in that. So what you're seeing, though, is a couple of things. We're not as busy as we once were, so we literally don't need as many people on the desk to cover them. But because we have a commitment to honor the 20 hours a week we guarantee people, for those that are 20, we worked really hard to not lay anyone off while having people work their 20. And so part of what's happening is we're getting some hourly people in to accommodate flexibility in scheduling. A number of our part-time people don't have flexibility in scheduling. And so we've made some shifts there. We did lose a part-time person. We did not replace that person because we aren't busy as we once were. And then in other departments, we have pulled back the number of hours. For example, the 2 reference departments, we have our librarians working 20 hours a week as well. And in part, some of the 20 hours a week that they were working on the desks over their the time they were working over, are being filled by the circulation staff who have volunteered to be cross-trained to do that reference work as well. So we've worked really hard to make sure that circulation people have jobs at 20 hours a week, as well as providing flexibility in the scheduling and coming in on budget while giving staff raises. This is a really great staff, and we worked very hard.
Do you anticipate how this would continue? Do you think we've done all we can? I mean, it seems like if it was just to save money, we would have done it 5 years ago. Because
we had more money 5 years ago.
Well, if it was just to save money, we would have done it. If there's a cost to it, and there probably is, there's a cost in service at some level. That's why we're doing it now.
Well, and our checkout, though, is new, so we're having quite a reflection of self-checkout versus at the desk checkout. That has changed almost 100% since April, well, don't know April.
Do you have that with you?
The picture, yeah.
Oh, good. I didn't.
You probably can't see. The blue line that's coming from here down to here is 14, down to present, and that's the staff time that's been required. The red line going from here up is the self-checkout.
And e-books.
And renewal.
And renewal.
And so that has gone up considerably. So you see, it really reflects, and that's only happened since we've had the self-checkouts. So in answer to your question, was it happening before? Possibly, but now we can prove it. We know what's happening to the use of the people on the circulation desk.
Okay. I guess it would just, I think it would help to know if we're at a level point now, or if this is going to be something that's going to be ongoing. I mean.
Oh, okay. You're talking about like hiring decisions?
Yeah, as far as replacing additional staff with different staff.
So, not to be too granular, but every time a person moves on, we look at that position and we decide what is a good choice here. And the directors and I have a conversation. How do you want to replace this person? Is it going to be, if it's an hourly person, is it still an hourly? Is it, if it's a part-time, will it be an hourly and such? And so looking across a couple of departments, we have a change coming in acquisitions. It affects archives and acquisitions. And people came with suggestions of what we could do involving hourly staff, and I sent them back to look at what would it look like if we hired a part-time person. So it's definitely position based on what the library needs.
Okay. Yeah, I totally appreciate that. And if somebody leaves, I happen to know a couple of people that started recently, and I think it's great that some of it seems like another avenue to diversify the staff and things like that, because you have different skill needs and things like that. But if it's a matter of cutting other hours that are, valuable staff hours that train people that can provide better services, just to do that, I think that's a little different story that I wouldn't want us to go too far in that direction. But if it's, an attrition kind of thing where you can take advantage of somebody departing to fill in other jobs with less experienced people that don't cost as much. That makes sense to me.
You wanted to say something?
They are hiring another hourly in circulation. They have a current job posted to hire another hourly. I don't see that it makes sense what our executive director is saying. Now they're adding in another hourly because, as I understand it, they feel like the half-time people are working too many hours. If they add, they're going to push them down to 20 hours a week, is my understanding.
Part-time hours are part-time hours. And those of you who are working have agreed to part-time hours, and we have not budgeted entirely for full-time staff, and many of you are picking up extra hours, and it was not possible. We had no benefits written into our budget. There were things.
Well, they've been doing it for 7 years.
This has got to be closed for
7 years,
discussion
10 years,
tonight.
15 years. If they were told when they were hired they would work additional hours, and that they were required even to pick up more than they were scheduled. I just don't understand why it's necessary to hire another hourly in circulation in order to reduce the hours that current people are working, that they're covering easily.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. We have the committee, the nominating committee for officers for next year, and I'm going to ask the senior person of that staff, I haven't told her so, Anho, would you announce what the committee's decision was for next year's officers that we can vote next meeting?
Let me help out.
The vice
I'm
chair.
sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
tell her she was going to.
Yeah. The committee met after the last meeting, rather informally, but it was clear that the nominating committee wishes to place in nomination, I don't know how we do that, Chris Scherer for chair, Mark Netter as vice chair, and Beth Scheid as secretary treasurer. And that is the nominating committee report.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Non-residential library card for new
Do we
business.
need to vote on those officers, or is
No,
that the next
that's
meeting?
next-
That's
that's
next
next
meeting,
meeting.
so I'm placing a nomination,
Yeah.
okay. So,
Bringing forward the slate.
That's the slate.
You're bringing forward the slate.
Yeah.
right, yes.
Non-residential library cards. Do we have that in our packet?
Yeah, we do.
Yes,
I'm
there's
sorry.
Yeah, here, let me,
Do I hear a motion?
here, it's this one.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Do I hear a motion for approval of that policy?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
Is there any discussion? Basically, last time we said that we were going to stay with the tax basis, and there was no question that's the easiest way to, and the fairest way for everybody. All those in favor of this statement, policy, is it policy? It's a policy, isn't it? Yeah, it has to be. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Illinois Public Library per capita and the equalization grant. What do we need for discussion there?
This is an update for you as to what to expect coming up down the pike. So every year, we fill out the per capita report, and there are different activities that we need to do in order to qualify. And so the couple of things that you want to be taking a look at is what's coming your way soon. The library will be working on the EDGE assessment. The library board and staff will be working on the EDGE assessment. So we need someone to be asked of the board to work on the EDGE assessment with us. So if you have a candidate for that, would be great. They'll be working with MC Neal and a team of library people as well. And then potentially in July, there's this section for trustees. We will bring forward to you some information about how the library fosters resource sharing so that the library board and staff can engage in a discussion about that. Again, we're thinking July, perhaps August. So those are the couple of things we wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page about where we're timeline-wise.
Okay, and I would like to ask Beth if she would be willing to serve on the EDGE assessment.
Sure.
Okay. That's an appointment. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So move.
Would you
Second.
please read all the 5 IC, I can read it, 5 ILCS 120-2C1. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Roll call.
Jane?
Yes.
Yes?
Beth? Yes.
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Jeff?